Welcome to Vermont on the Hill. I assume you may have questions, but I just had a good meeting with Chief Judge Garland. I've known him for a long, long time, known his record for a long, long time. But we had a couple interesting conversations. We're both former prosecutors, and I'd followed him very closely during Oklahoma City, even to the extent of creating legislation and set aside like an emergency fund for communities hit by terrorism. We used it in 9/11. Of course, we had to expand it then. But I watched the professional way he handled what could have been a real problem. But so I said, but what happens now, you know, and I know the answer, but I said, when you're a judge and you've been a prosecutor, what do? And he said, you look at each case by itself. So I've ruled with the government sometimes. I've ruled against the government sometimes. To me, that's when I recommended judges in Vermont, obviously at a different level than this. I've always put people in and say, would it make any difference coming in, whether it's Patrick Leahy of Middlesex, Vermont, or Patrick Smith of Middlesex, Vermont, coming forward. And that's what I want as Supreme Court Justice. And so I am pleased with the President's nomination. I think that what you see is what you get with him. There's no hidden agenda. He's made it very clear where he stands, and that's with the Constitution and the law. Now, I wish the Senate, and I'm proud to serve in the Senate, but I wish the Senate would remember that each one of us took an oath to uphold the Constitution. In fact, we ended by saying, so help me God. And now let's just do that, follow the Constitution. You probably don't have any questions, but if you do, go ahead.
Senator, on this St. Patrick's Day, it might be too early to talk about piñatas and Cinco de Mayo, but I'm just wondering if you talked about how difficult this process is going to be in the months ahead.
Well, I think I didn't have to talk about how difficult it is because you've seen so many of the Republican leadership say they don't care what the Constitution says, they're going to ignore it. I'm hoping that'll change. If we followed our normal routine, we could easily have the hearings, the debate, the background, and the vote by Memorial Day. You know, we're taking an unprecedented number of recesses, both last year and this year. Cancel a couple of them. If we don't have time, cancel a couple of them. Do the job we're paid. We're paid every single day, whether we're here or not. Let's do the job we're paid to do. There's no reason why, especially somebody as non-controversial as the Chief Judge, there's no question this couldn't, in normal course, could easily be done by Memorial Day.
Senator Leahy, did Judge Garland express any sort of disappointment with the Republican reaction he's been getting? He's talked to those senators, at least the Republican senators, on the phone directly, who've all said to him, you know, you're a nice guy, but we're not going to take you up this year.
Well, they shouldn't, this is too important to phone it in. They shouldn't talk to him by phone. They should do what we have always done. Whether you meet with the nominee, I've done this with every president since I've been here, whether it's been a Republican or a Democratic president. As a courtesy, you meet with them, you give them, I mean, this is a very, very important step that any senator can take. It's not a lifetime appointment. I think they owe it to their constituents, they owe it to the country. More importantly, they owe it to the Constitution. Go ahead and meet with a person. Don't phone it in.
So did Judge Garland talk about that at all?
No, he did not discuss any politics. He discussed what an honor it is, and he discussed his philosophy of the law, which is being an impartial judge.
Senator, the next 2 weeks the recess is obviously going to be very critical regarding his nomination. What specific events are planned? Is there anything concrete planned?
Well,
how do you guys plan to promoting them over this next 2 weeks?
you know, if you see the calls and letters I'm getting from my state, from both Republicans and Democrats, it's not a question of promoting. People in my state, from some of the most conservative to the most liberal, say, hey, you guys, do your job, give them a hearing, ask them questions. Some would suggest they have a question they'd like asked. Ask them questions, and then do your job.
But this is a critical period.
But
No,
the critical period is nominating him. Now the thing is, will the Senate do their job? And I'm not going to go off and do big events. Well, Monday I'll be in Cuba with the president. I'll be sure to mention to people. No, but no, what I want to do is do our job, do a hearing, actually have a hearing. That's what it should be. I'm not going to do some dog and pony show in Vermont or anywhere else on this. Everybody in Vermont I've talked with, again, Republicans and Democrats across the political spectrum, they say the same thing. Hey, you guys are paid. Do your job. Hold your hearing. Then make up your mind. Let's have a vote. You know, either vote yes or no.
Senator Leahy, did you talk about what role the judge himself, the Chief Judge himself, might have in persuading Republicans to move forward? And if not, what role do you envision?
I'm sorry, you say it again.
What role the judge himself might play in persuading Republicans to move forward? And if you didn't talk about it, what do you envision for him?
No, I just think the role he has, and this is a role of fairness. You have people who are attacking him and saying we can't do this and that. Let him, he's not going to go out before the press like I am now and give his side of the story. Where he gets a chance to say anything is at a hearing. And that's what he ought to have. He's not going to say anything publicly, but at a hearing, he can answer questions, and he ought to have that opportunity. I mean, it's a question. It's first a question of fairness. Most importantly, it's the question of us following the Constitution. But how can you say we're being fair if we don't even give them a hearing? I mean, we've made up our mind. We won't even give you a hearing. There's no fairness in that. I can't think of, since I've been here, a Supreme Court justice who hasn't had a hearing if they've wanted it. We've had a couple who were proposed and withdrew their names at the request of the White House, both of them Republicans. But everybody's had a hearing.
Senator Leahy, did Judge Garland say he was prepared to wait until after the election, if necessary, for...
No, we didn't even go into that because that should be a non-issue. The fact is, if we follow precedent, it takes about 60 days. Do you want to set a new precedent and say, oh no, if you have a nominee, let's take a year? I don't think that should be done. And you know, Senator Cornyn said, oh, we'd never do that after the election. Well, no, do it now like you're supposed to. Follow regular order. You know, the president wasn't elected for 3 years. He got a nearly 5 million vote plurality. I realize there's some in the other party who are jealous, but he got elected. And he's trying to do his job. And he has done his job. Now it's our turn to do ours.
Senator Leahy, how do Senate Democrats keep this issue alive if the story doesn't change, if Republicans continue to refuse to meet?
You know, it's keep it alive. I mean, we could, if what the press wants is, and I'm not suggesting you do, just have some kind of a grandstanding thing every day. That's one thing. I would hope that the press would talk to legal scholars, would talk to those, and both Republicans and Democrats, ask them what they think. That makes it clear. I'll give you one example. Some of you been here long enough to remember President Reagan and Senator Goldwater, two best-known conservative Republicans. Senator Goldwater recommended to President Reagan Sandra Day O'Connor. President Reagan sent Sandra Day O'Connor here. She had a full hearing, and then she was voted on, and she became the first woman to serve on the United States Senate. She's now retired. Obviously a conservative Republican herself, with her background. She has made it very clear publicly that she thinks we should go forward with the nomination, with hearing the nomination. I'd go interview her. She's got experience. Interview those who have been in the Supreme Court and retired, ask them what they think. But you're going to find people in the legal system across the political spectrum, Republicans and Democrats, are saying, have your hearing and vote up or down.
Senator,
Did you give him your assessment?
Senator, are you saying that Senate Democrats would not be willing to have a hearing and a vote on Judge Garland after the...
No, I'm not saying that at all. And we're not the ones that set the hearing time anyway. What I'm saying is do what's always done. Have the hearing, have the vote. I get tired of hearing comparisons. I think one was making it today. I remind them that the last 2 years of President Bush's term, I put through 68 of his judges. They've allowed 16 of President Obama's. We were doing Republican presidents' nominations right up, times we've been in charge, right up to September. And then we all recessed for the elections. So I said, do the same thing we did.
Did you give him your assessment of the chances that he'll be confirmed?
I talked to him about where the hurdles are, and I told him what I thought would happen if we actually followed the oath that we've all taken to uphold the Constitution.
What are the
Did you
hurdles?
did you tell him you think he's likely to be confirmed?
You know, we actually didn't even go into that. I just told him what I thought what should happen and what I hoped would happen.
What are the
I'm not going to go into the specific discussion, but other than I did like hearing his perspective, having been a former prosecutor, about how he's decided cases, some where he's ruled with the government, some where he's ruled against it. But, I mean, let's not go down this into a, well, obviously you can ask any question you want, but I'm not concerned going a process. What if we do this? What if we do that? What if, I'm just saying do what I've done for my 40 years here, uphold the Constitution. This is one of the most important votes we can ever cast. This, vote to go to war, others like that. This is an extraordinarily important vote.
Senator,
Thank you, guys.
Republicans
Thank you,
are
guys.
already,
Thank you.
there are, some Republicans, their campaign arms are already attacking Mr. Garland, calling him a liberal, pointing to decisions he made on guns, on other things. They're not willing to have a hearing, but they are already attacking him.
Well, some of these Republican groups realize that their party has made a really bad mistake in saying they're not going to follow the Constitution. They can't go, file ads or do things based on, oh, we're on your side for not following the Constitution. They're trying to distract on the reasons.